I just thought tonight I'd come up and share a little bit about my testimony / story. I don't really know what to call it because it sort of goes beyond my testimony, but I'll try to keep it short for Taylor. I realized that I know most of you know me, but some of you know my background, but then some of you don't. I was saved at the age of 9 in a little town called Pflugerville, Texas, and I lived a pretty simple life. I was born and raised in the church, so it was a pretty typical church kid. Went to church ever since I can remember. I've been involved in church ever since I can remember, and as part of that, I also learned how to wear a mask at a very early age. And unfortunately, that's pretty true with a lot of people that are raised in church. You learn to wear a mask, you act the way that you're told, and you dress the way that you're told to dress, and you sing the songs and pray the prayers and read the verses and go to Sunday school, and that's pretty much the way you're supposed to act. After I got saved, because I was 9, there wasn't a lot of stuff in my life that was awful at that moment. I mean, maybe I changed my cereal choice in the morning, but that was about it. My family was also a typical church family, On the outside, people who were looking inside, we looked like the perfect family. There were 4 of us, and me and my brother and sisters, and everyone thought that we were the perfect family that never did any wrong, and there were people saying, oh, you should be like the Sandlins, and the Sandlins are such a great family. But what they don't see is that every family has its cracks and flaws, and my family had those just like any family would. Besides those, my growing up was pretty easy. My teen years were typical teen years. You're worried about the way you look and trying to get rid of your acne and praying that eventually you grow into all your clothes. So that was, high school was typical high school. Nothing was too hard. For those of you who know me, I'm extremely hard-headed, and I can be extremely stubborn sometimes. And for those times that in my high school or when I was younger, if I came to something that people said wasn't possible, I would look them in the face, tell them they're wrong, and I'm going to do it anyway. And if I wind up failing, well, at least I would have done it my way. And that was my attitude for a long time, and it wasn't the best attitude to have. Several things happened in my growing up, though, that drew me closer to God. I got saved at a young age, and because of that, I didn't have the trials before I got saved, so they came after. My little sister, my youngest sister, Cassidy, we call her the mouth of the South, and she is in love with High School Musical. She's 11 years old, but when she was born, she was diagnosed with hemiplegia, and it is a form of cerebral palsy, and half of her body was partially paralyzed. And we didn't think much about it because this was 2003. There wasn't a lot of things that people knew about it. It was a disorder, and they knew that, and they knew that she would need physical therapy. But then she started having seizures. And a seizure, I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with what they are, but what specifically they are is when your brain misfires or short circuits. It causes your body to sometimes lock up. It can cause a lot of different things. And Cassie started having those at the age of 3. And she almost died several times. The worst instance, she had 20 seizures in one day. And for a little girl 3 years old, that's a lot. And for me, it was never really a faith testing thing. It was, this is my little sister, and this is the way she is, and we just have to live with it. As years went on, it got more serious. One day, me and my other sister were at home alone with her, and she stopped breathing. And one of the scariest moments of my life. And thankfully we got her, me and my sister had both been in first aid classes through high school, so we both knew what to do. And she started breathing again. And that's when we decided to look deeper into it. And the doctors told us that the damage to her brain, because every time you have a seizure, it's like, I guess the best way to describe it would be like a piece of your brain ripping. And she had a lot of scar tissue on her brain. And it wasn't impairing anything as of yet, but they said if the seizures kept continuing, that her mental state would degrade. And that is extremely hard to hear and to accept. At that point, I was starting to get angry. There were a lot of things with my family that I was angry about, things that I couldn't control, differences of opinion that I was extremely angry about. And when I get angry with things, or I get frustrated with things, a lot of times I tend to throw up my hands and say I'm done. I just don't want to do it anymore. Just throw it away. Don't want to do it anymore. That was sort of what I did with this. I boxed it up, and that was my life. That was Cassie. That was who we were. We were just taking one day at a time. Then I got closer to college. Had a graduation party. At 19, I had stayed home a semester to earn some money, and then I was off to college. And at 19, I was going to change the world. I was going to go to BBC, and I was going to become the missionary to Ireland that people wrote books about. And that was my goal, a very narrow goal. And when I got to BBC, my first 3 weeks at BBC were the roughest weeks I have ever had on my own, or with some of them. There were a lot of people that did not like me, and made it very apparent that they didn't like me, and were very pushing for me to leave the school because they didn't like me. And I remember being on the phone with my mom and crying, and a 19-year-old guy trying to figure out where I fit in the world, crying to my mom on the phone, telling her that I didn't sign up for this, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And again, like I said, I can be very, very stubborn sometimes. And I looked at it and I said, these people want me to leave. That is their goal, is to get me to leave BBC. And just because they want me to leave, I'm going to stay here and throw it in their face. That was my attitude. Not the best attitude to have, but I decided that that's what I was going to do. And so I stayed at BBC. And it was easy. After those 3 weeks, things got easier. Those people saw that I wasn't leaving, and that I wasn't going to leave, and so things got easier. Through the semester, my first semester, I was still trying to figure out where I fit in society and everything, getting a job and everything, and then summer rolled around. And summer I had gotten a job in security, and I was a big old security guard, and I was so happy about that, and I was excited. My first summer by myself, and oh my goodness, this is going to be amazing, and I'm going to have so much fun, all these adventures with all my friends, and road trips and everything, and I was ready. And then there was a day, June 16th, 6 o'clock, I got a text from my dad. And I had taken a nap, my Baptist nap. on Sundays, and he had texted me. And that day started out normal. It was Father's Day. So I called them and gave my dad a hard time about being so old, and then I went and took my nap. I got a text, and I saw it was from him. I didn't think much about it. I was like, oh, he texted me, probably forgot to tell me something. But that text message changed my life. A little boy in my church had died. He was 2. And he died of a seizure. And that morning, he was at church in the nursery. And everyone was, talking about all the fathers and how old they were and handing out Father's Day gifts and congratulating all the people who were going to be new dads. And at night, he was gone. I didn't know what to do. My world that I had built started to come apart, and things started to collapse, and pillars of my faith started to fall, and I didn't know what to do. While I was still heavily grieving for Cooper, I got another phone call not a month later. Another little boy in our church had been diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 6 months to live. I had to make a trip back home. I had to be home. It was just, I needed to grieve with my family and my church family. While I was there, we got the news that a girl, a daughter of one of the families in our church, had been to the church several times, committed suicide. 3 people within under 3 months. Then, after that, I got another notification that Cooper's dad had to make the choice to take his own mother off of life support. All of this time, I was getting ripped apart. I had no idea. I became numb. I went day to day. This was my life. I'm at DVC. I'm in Springfield, Missouri. This is where I am. And all feeling left me. Any fire that I had, any inspiration left. And I started to harden my heart and make it extremely cold. And I withdrew from a lot of people. And I tell people, it's like my faith, my morals, everything collapsed. And I would have those times where I would ask God, why? Why in the world did all of these people have to die at once? What is the purpose in this? And I had several people tell me, they're like, Wesley, you can ask why until you go insane, but you'll probably never get an answer. And I didn't like that. My stubbornness kicked in, and I said, I'm going to find an answer for this. If it takes me the rest of my life, I will find an answer. I started to rebel against everything that I was taught. Every faith that I had, I went against it. Everything that I thought was right, I decided wasn't right. And I went against everything that I knew. And it was my rebellion against God, telling Him, if you're going to take my people away, then I will leave you. And it was my attempt to hurt God. And so I did. I stopped reading my Bible. I stopped going to church. I did a lot of things. that weren't good or God-honoring. And for a long time, I was making sure that I didn't. And people would tell me to read verses, and I'd be like, "You're an idiot. Those have no meaning." I would sit in church listening to the pastor speak, and inside I was standing up saying, "You have no idea what you're talking about." Well, after that, for about 6 months, I stayed like that. I was angry, I was bitter, I told people that would come to me for advice, that used to come to me for advice, I told them, "You can't ask me these things right now, because I am not spiritually capable of giving you the advice that you need." And I wrestled a lot with, is God real? If He took a 2-year-old boy from us, what is the purpose in that? The only bright spot I could find was that Cassie had major brain surgery and had come through that okay. But me and my family all asked ourselves, why did God answer our prayer? We don't know. After that, there was a long time, and then I started to think, after quite a while, I'm not going to know why. I'll never know why. I won't know why this happened, why a 2-year-old boy had to die, why all these people had to die at once. Halfway through my recovery, I call it, a scandal happened in my home church with the youth pastor, and hurt my family really, really deeply. And then I got angry at that, and so all this anger was building, and I was becoming more and more bitter and becoming self-destructive. And I thank God today that I had a buffer of godly influence, or I would not be here. I can guarantee you I'd probably be drunk somewhere in Texas. I did a lot of soul searching, and it broke me down to my foundation, and there was something that would not let me crumble all the way. And it was like I had found the cement foundation of what I was built on. And I started praying for the first time in forever. I started actually reading the verses that people post on Facebook instead of almost commenting that they were idiots. I started doing a lot of things, going to church more. There's some friends that recommended this church called Southside. And I was like, I don't know about that church. And and of course, we all know where that led to. Then things were going well. And then a month ago today, I got the notification that the other little boy had died. And it was hard. It was hard. And that day, I told people I didn't want to talk to anyone. I basically locked myself in my room, and to be honest, I don't remember what I did. I just locked myself away and dealt with it. There was this time, there was a peace, and there was a strength, and it felt like something was holding me up. And, I asked myself, where was God in this? Where was God? That night, we had begged God for a miracle. Cooper died. We begged God for several miracles. All those people died. We begged God for a miracle for Waddy. And I had to ask myself, why did God, because I had been looking for a new job at that point, and an amazing opportunity fell in my lap out of nowhere. And I had to ask myself, why did God answer my prayer for a job, not the prayer for a little boy's life? I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. But here's what I do know. Through those experiences, a lot of people have been reached. Cooper, his family has been reached through that, his unsaved part of his family. And wondered why this group of 700 people who you can keep no secrets from gathered around his parents and just supported them. And then Wadi, the little boy with cancer, his father is Muslim. And we are hoping and praying that his dad saw the support that our church gave and the not one penny that his mosque gave. And we also, through this, a lot of kids in my church have lost their innocence of life. They've seen their friends in caskets at 7 and 8 years old. No child should ever have to see that. But through this, Wadi was saved before he died. And a lot of the kids were asking, where did Wadi go? Why isn't he here anymore? And we can explain to them that he's in heaven now. And so many kids in my church have started asking those questions. And it has touched so many lives in such a positive way. And I was talking to someone, and I said, my favorite book in the Bible used to be Job. It still is Job. And then I lived Job's life. And it's not easy having everything taken away from you. Everything stripped away until it's just you and God. And, I've wrestled with it so much, but I'm at peace now. I told someone, it's like a breath, like you're taking a breath, like a refreshing outside breath. Because now there's hope. There was hope back then, too, when we were going through all these things, but we couldn't see it. And now we can see hope again. And my church is stronger back home now. People that I know are a lot stronger now. And for me, myself, that kid that left home at 19, thrilled to be out on his own with his piece of junk car and all of his baggage in his car, that kid has matured and realizes that life is hard. It's not a game. Life is not a game. It's hard, and it will hurt you. These scars that I have from this, I will probably live with the rest of my life. And every Father's Day, I will shed a tear. But I know that God is good. And I'm still healing. But I know that I won't be still healing forever. And, I tell people, I'm excited for the first time in my future, for my future, for my friends' futures. Like, a trillion people are getting married this semester or over the summer. And, now I'm excited. There's hope. Life does get better. Things get better. And while there are awful, terrible things that you never, ever want to live through again, with those, though, you've also been given a gift. And that now I can understand people that lose children, people that lose loved ones so close. I know exactly what they're feeling. And I know that for people that lose those people, it will be a very long road to recovery. But if people have the support system that I've had, it won't be as long as it could be. And, in ending my testimony / story, I don't know what to call it, but, I would say that this is neither the beginning nor the end of my journey or anyone else's journey. And I have hope and peace that what the future brings, good or bad, that God is still good, and that at the end of the day, when I go to sleep, God is still taking care of all of it.